The Blood of Dawnwalker was announced back in 2025 and is the first effort by Rebel Wolves, a brand new studio built of die-hard RPG developers. As fans of the genre, we had a lot of questions on our minds. How does its key day-night cycle feature affect gameplay? Can you explore the whole world in one playthrough? And what do Rebel Wolves ultimately want players to take away from their experience? To check out this brand new RPG, I flew all the way to their offices in Warsaw, Poland to check it out. Here we'd get a glimpse of the game's prologue and, more importantly, a chance to sit down with Rebel Wolves' lead quest designer, environment artist and creative director to get some answers. Rebel Wolves has made some pretty big promises for their debut game, including how player choice is going to have severe repercussions. So first, I wanted to know about the true impact of those decisions.
Pretty much all the NPCs in the game may die, right? Which is, well, pretty high stakes in my book, because that does not make the stories like stop in its tracks. It is still possible to go to the castle, attack it, and save the family eventually.
Every action that costs you time is clearly telegraphed as such, right? You have a very clear indicators on how much time you have left, and how does this currency of time translate to how much time you have to complete your main objective. At the same time, like you said, the game carries on. It's not like the credits don't roll when the time runs out, and you can, miss out on a lot of things if you decide to play a certain way. It's really up to you. After we let you out into the open world, we basically say this is your main goal, and there's a bunch of stuff you can do. On purpose, we don't call them main quests, side quests, whatever. There are quests, there are activities, and it's up to you how do you want to interact with them. I think the way we kind of spread out these activities, these quests throughout the game world, I think it is very unlikely that you manage to dodge all of them. But if you do, please write to us. It would be very impressive. But I think there is enough in that spread to have you have these emotional, interesting moments, regardless the way you play.
They will differ vastly from player to player, depending on what they find enticing, interesting, engaging, as they encounter these different stories in the game world. And again, thanks to this simple goal, it is possible for the player to just pick what they find most interesting, what they find most meaningful, and make these choices, make this path really their own.
So with so much replayability baked into the game, what does that say about the number of endings?
There are multiple endings to the game. Some of them quite different, like from the most obvious one. Let's call it. Again, the players will be able to find something that they feel like is their own in the game, including the ending that they reach eventually.
We want to limit the canon stuff to the minimum, right? For example, he has to turn into Dawnwalker, otherwise there wouldn't be much of a saga about this. But other than that, we feel we, on purpose, want to leave as much agency to the player, so these choices carry over and they, matter, and you feel like this is your story.
No, we don't have like a decision that is set in stone, all right? We would love to make all the endings like, canonical, to include them in the next installments, right? These consequences to those choices and those endings. But, time will tell what needs to be done when we begin the work on the future installments of the IP.
The Blood of Dawnwalker features a running clock that's ticking down until the end of Cohen's main quest to save his family. Now, most gamers are pretty familiar with RPGs that don't feature this kind of time constraint, so would we still be able to see it all and do it all in one playthrough?
If the player feels like it, they can do pretty much every quest in the game. But it would mean not reaching the, let's call it, a perfect ending.
An RPG lives and dies by its story, but making the journey fun is just as important. So what features were the developers particularly excited about?
The narrative sandbox is definitely something that was very exciting to me personally when I joined the company. So this concept of having this game structure where you can do all of these open-ended endings for quests, being able to cut them short and all of that, I think that's what makes it super exciting for me.
From the perspective of the quest designers, the addition of the time system, the control time system, was a nice change, additional layer to what we had to do regarding the non-linearities in our content.
Absolutely blood hunger. Just because I didn't know how it was going to work initially before it was implemented. And then one day I was playtesting a quest just to see if a particular path through the forest was sort of clear enough to lead us to a point. And I get to the point and I talk to a character, and then Cohen just lost it and killed him. I was like, all right.
He gets multiple different ways you can develop him. Of course, you can invest a lot of points into like the vampire side of things, which includes things like obviously biting people, like healing with their blood, but also like more powerful abilities like influencing their blood to cause them to explode, or like, you know, mesmerizing them so they fight on your side, or using claws in combat. The daytime Cohen, the human Cohen, has access to dark magic, occult magic. So you get to hex your enemies, you get to do different things to them, you get to like speak with the dead, do out of combat as well. And of course, we also have a tree that is dedicated to sword combat, which you can use both during the day and during the night. And these abilities are focused on your performance using blades, right? Of course, on top of that, we also have other weapons that you can utilize, but Cohen's training was focused on the sword, so this is where most of these abilities put their energy, let's say.
Now I wanted to try and get some cheekier answers about the nitty-gritty details of the game, like the presence of New Game Plus.
Perhaps not. We will see.
Well, can't blame me for trying, but I did find out about some particularly interesting quests that players definitely shouldn't miss.
There are quests that allow you to put your hands on some legendary equipment. Actually, one of our the bigger storylines is related exactly to that. It's a hunt for a legendary sword. There's one quest that has a unusual structure to it. You know, in my book, the usual structure of a quest is that you are asked to do something, to go somewhere, do something, uncover some mystery, return, and get a reward. The quests that I like especially are those that play with this formula, change it a little bit, and there is one such quest that has an unusual structure to it. Then there is one that goes deeper into what is happening in our protagonist's head, let's say. The story is king here at Rebel Wolves. It always will be. So this is what the process starts with. We look into the lore, the ideas for the world that we have, draw from those, and try to come up with stories that we would like to tell within those lore frames, let's call it. And then, we expand on that.
From the gameplay demonstration, the quests felt compelling, engaging, but also with plenty of room for a little bit of humour. I was thoroughly invested in Cohen as a character, but it isn't just him and his new vampy powers we'll be spending time with, but also the world. On the surface, it may seem familiar to people who have played games like The Witcher 3 or Kingdom Come Deliverance, but in reality, this is the first time that this part of the world has ever been approached by a studio to this level of detail.
The base inspiration is Carpathian Mountains, which sort of dictates Central Eastern Europe, kind of bleeding into the Balkans in a way. Some of it is because, write what you know. We're from here. It's all familiar to us and we want to show it to the world. But also, you cannot really have vampires with a little bit of Romania in it, at least to our mind. I absolutely love the village because it gives off that exact vibe that we're going for in the prologue. But my sort of baby that's the closest to my heart is the environments pertaining to what you've literally only had a glimpse of, is the ancient tombs. Because it feels so out of place after, especially with the contrast of coming from your typical medieval village through a bit of a forest, maybe a swamp, and then suddenly there's a whiplash of not hundreds but thousands years back.
I personally really enjoy the mountains, and because you have a lot of verticality there, you have these beautiful views on the valley. And honestly, I sometimes, even now, even though I, playtested this game to death, I sometimes stop and just look around because this looks pretty.
The biggest one, from my perspective at least, is the verticality and sort of almost portioning off the world that needs to look like it's one cohesive world. You can't have, hard cut lines, but portioning it in such a way that it's very clear. Some of it is only accessible to Cohen in his human form, and some of it only opens up at night. And you may have noticed that the quests have a little moon or sun icon next to them that indicates that a quest can be played just at night or just during daytime. There's also quests that can be played as both, with different approaches, of course. The thing that kept coming up in terms of stylistic choices and how we're supposed to build things is low fantasy. So if you think of fantastical creations, be it books, movies, games, on a spectrum from low to high, low fantasy is what we're aiming for, which is predominantly realistic with just a small little twist. If you think of X-Files.
And a burning question all lovers of RPG fans need to know is, how big is the map and how big is the game really?
The game is sort of about 50 hours plus. If you're really a completionist and just choose to wander around for hours, of course more. And we are a sort of story-driven development environment, so to speak, where the writers have written up the story, quest designers designed the quest, they've built the game sort of on paper, as it were, and then to that, we've built a world that would fit it. So I know it may sound like a non-answer, but if you imagine an open-world game of about 50 plus hours, we've built the world so that it's dense, doesn't waste your time. Everywhere you go, everything you look at, everything you interact with serves the story and forwards your objective, be it saving the family, or maybe you'll find a different storyline more interesting for some reason.
Cohen seems to be pretty agile, but given the sheer scale of the map, it was kind of hard to believe that we would only be traveling on foot. And it turns out that isn't the case at all.
Cohen has shadow step and plane shift to sort of get to places where normally you wouldn't. There's fast travel in the shrines that we've shown, which pretty box standard. There are abilities that you can learn throughout the game for both human and vampire form that will enable different modes of traversal with its unique pros and cons, shall we say.
The prologue playthrough we saw painted a picture of a hostile world where death and destruction are only moments away. Key character deaths can occur almost immediately, and it's all down to you. Do you embrace the vampire within or try to preserve your humanity? And having seen just one of the possibilities, it got me thinking, what if I did it differently? Well, as soon as we get a chance to play it ourselves, we'll let you know. So get subscribed so that you can see that video first, and drop a comment with what else you'd like to learn about the Blood of Dawnwalker. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!